You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the November 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Parks and Recreation Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan City Park Board meeting of November 2nd, 2022. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Shannon, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lashford?
Here.
Mr. Freeze?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Mrs. Spurling?
Here.
All right, we may have a somewhat of a time crunch tonight. Elko has another meeting going on at 6, so we would need to be diligent and go through our meeting, but if at all possible, need to be aware of a time constraint.
Okay.
So the minutes from our October 19th meeting 2022 were presented in advance, so unless there are any corrections or additions, do we have a motion to approve?
I would move we accept the minutes as printed from October 19th.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Any project updates or old business or tabled business tonight?
No.
Great, thank you. New business, the first one is the 2023 EVP Tour MOU, and I have a comment on this one. The agreement that was presented in our packet included a workers' comp clause, which previously had not been in the agreement. Ross Balling, he runs that entity. He called and was obviously upset a little bit that now he has to go out and get workers' comp, and he's the sole proprietor. He's never had to have it before. So I just started thinking and making some phone calls, and there is a clause in the agreement, which is a indemnity clause, which has some weight to it that says that he won't come after the park department should he get hurt. Now, he could theoretically still try it, but there's an indemnity clause. And the way I saw it is, we then were going to lower our fees to help accommodate Ross still maintain profitability with his operations, and so he could go buy the policy to cover it. And it seemed like everyone's giving in the winner. And I know this might be cynical. The insurance company is winning at this point because they're getting the premium.
Always.
So that's just my opinion on this, and right or wrong. I was gonna propose going back to last year's contract with the same fee. He's given us 10% of all his revenue. No worker comp requirement, and then have a new have that waiver and Exhibit C. So that's the nuts and bolts of my thoughts on this. I'm welcome to entertain different ideas or scrap, but going back to the old clause and using the new worker comp clause. But just
What does Charlie Keene say about it?
they want worker comp clause.
Oh, they want.
Yeah, that's their recommendation.
Yeah.
So this has happened before, and they have a purpose and a service to provide as much protection to the city as we can. In my view, sometimes that protection kind of circumvents what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep adding this, which some are, again, this is just my opinion. So please, it's not right or wrong. And someone I fully have on the total opposite end of this. But if we start, and let's just use Ross's case, we keep increasing his insurance requirements. And then he might say, well, it's just not worth my time and effort anymore. And then we don't have this service to offer the community.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be mindful of the risk and take into consideration the recommendations of the insurance. We also have to weigh that against what we're trying to accomplish here as the park department.
Do we know how many employees he has and how much that workers' comp would cost him?
He's the sole proprietor. He doesn't have any employees other than himself. And his cost he shared with me would be about $900 a year.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And you get to the point where you're just overinsured. So.
Well, there's that. And we do have an indemnity clause in the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
But
But with the workers' comp, can he then sue the city if something happens to him physically while
He has
he's,
a workers' comp.
no, I'm sorry, if he doesn't have workers' comp?
Now here, I guess he could always sue the city. And
Right.
the indemnity clause, some judge would have to weigh
Yeah.
the claim against the city versus what he signed as a contract. Unless I'm okay.
Yeah, okay. And then maybe we can't ask this question, but does he have health insurance if something were to happen to him?
I don't know that.
Okay. And then what is the revenue that was what my only question was, what is the revenue, the actual dollar revenue we receive?
Yeah, I think it was maybe in an email to me. We're not talking about a lot of
The average is a couple $1,000 a year.
Mm.
That's fine.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So we've had a partnership with Ross for 20 years
Mhm.
doing this. And this is the first time this clause has been proposed, well, maybe not proposed, first time it made it into the contract before us, the worker comp clause.
And who asked for the worker comp?
I believe it was a recommendation from the city's insurance
Oh,
company,
Okay.
General Insurance and Charlie, not Sheen.
Okay. Keen.
Keen. I always mix that.
Not Charlie Sheen at all, right?
So we can vote on it tonight. Either one, we could table it. I'm assuming that if there's no immediate need to pass this.
His current contract expires on December 31st.
Okay.
So he's under contract until
Mhm.
December 31st.
So you say we could utilize the old contract or would we then be?
My recommendation is update the old contract with the new dates and move forward. Basically, the new contract has the workers' comp. The old contract doesn't. Just use the old contract for 2023. That's kind of where I am, but again, everyone,
Would we have to table this one and then bring that one at the next meeting, bring that up?
better we just vote, but give me 1 second.
Well, Mr. Lashford, I was wondering, does the old contract have the other parameters, the other insurance coverage amounts, are those the same? I was under the impression that those were increased as well. Or we could just take, if you decided to move that way, we could just take that contract and pull the workman's comp out
Sure.
and keep the updated parameters in place, because he doesn't seem to have any concerns about those. So there's a lot of options.
Sure.
So last year's contract required the 2 million general liability. That has not increased.
Mhm.
So that's what Charlie was recommending for this year. That's in last year's contract. The only change, if the board chooses to keep last year's language, is changing the indemnification language that we talked about at the last meeting to keep it the same as the other contracts. And then we've added a participant waiver. It gives us that one extra level of protection.
Thank you, Shannon.
Well,
Any further comments or recommendations or motions?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Ross has been good for the activity at the beach in the summer for a lot of people, young and old, and maybe perhaps just go with last year's or actually this year's contract to next year. And as Laura said, we could pull out the
Workers.
workers, thank you. The workers' comp.
Yeah, and I think it's very expensive. That sounds like a lot for one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal. I don't feel like that's a normal amount for one person to cover one person. And I suppose he could sue the city anyway. So, so I agree with you.
Okay,
If we'll make.
is that in form of a motion, Phil?
Like I can make it is that we use the 2022 contract for Ross's volleyball for 2023 and take this as it's written here and omit the workers' comp.
So I think it's use the 2023, proposed 2023 contract
Okay, and
minus
minus the,
the
yes,
worker comp clause.
correct, yes.
If you don't mind, Mr. Latchford, one
Yes.
last point, Exhibit C, which is the waiver, that is for participants only, so he himself will not sign.
Very good. Thank you for that.
So
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Any second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next up is the accept proposal for Feathers Alley Playground Project.
Yes, included in your packet was the proposal submitted by Hitchcock Design Group. We did request proposals and received three from three different firms. We had a scoring team put together. We scored the proposals, and Hitchcock Design was definitely at the top of the list. They have a lot of experience in inclusive design. So I would recommend that the board accept their proposal.
Thank you, Shannon.
That Hitchcock, is that what she said? Hitchcock?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think they're partnering with one other group.
Jones, Petrie, Rapinski, correct?
Well, I'm sure you remember, Phil, Hitchcock Group worked with us on our 5-year plan and a few other things. And I thought they were a nice company to work with. They were very thorough, and I would say we should accept the Hitchcock proposal. That's just my comment.
Any other questions or comments?
This looked very professional.
Certainly.
Yeah, yes. We're doing all of this stuff in here, right? All of that's going in the Feathers Alley. Yeah.
Not quite all.
Shannon, can you remind us the three people that scored the process or the proposals?
Myself, city planner Skylar York, and his new assistant city planner Sylvia Collins.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Make sure you pass along our thanks to them too, because it's not necessarily an easy task and it's time consuming. So we appreciate that, their time and effort.
Certainly do that.
Any other questions or comments? If none, do we have a motion to accept the proposal for Feathers Alley Playground Project?
I so move that we accept the Feather Valley all-inclusive playground project according to Hitchcock Design Group and John Petrie Rapinski.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, then, following that up, we now need to award the professional services agreement and issue a notice to proceed for the Feathers Alley Playground Project. The professional services agreement was presented in our packet along with the usual top sheet, which kind of explains the whole process timeline. Now, any questions or comments about the agreement? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
The professional service agreement is what all the
Correct. Basically, giving them the go-ahead to initiate the planning process.
I would move then that we approve the professional service agreement and issues the notice to proceed.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, now we have the approval of the 2023 open accounts.
Thank you. This was also included in your packet. The city's small purchase policy as well as the park department small purchase policy requires that annually we submit a list of our open accounts to the park board for approval. Open accounts mean that they are charge accounts. There are certain employees that are assigned to certain accounts, maintenance would definitely have an account at Menards. So these are all the different accounts. We do keep a very close eye on these. If an employee leaves employment, we have a list and we immediately remove them from the accounts. But again, this is required by our purchase policy.
Shannon, I didn't memorize last year's, but it looked to be pretty much the same. I counted how many were on there and seems to be the same.
Yeah, there's quite a few extra ones that are on here this year, and most of those pertain to the zoo's retail operation. Sean tends to get different items in and different companies in every year to keep that gift shop fresh and the items attractive. So the majority of the additions this year are all from this year.
Is this a manual process where they sign a charge slip and then they send the bill with the signature to the office and we
Correct.
verify it?
Correct. It has to have a signature.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the 2023 open accounts list.
I would move that we approve the 2023 open accounts list as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, now we'll go on to the 2023 fees, contracts, and policies for the golf course.
Thank you, Mr. Latchford.
You're welcome.
Throughout the golf course, we are asking for the board to approve an increase, a 10% increase, pretty much across the board for such things as the season pass fees, the greens fees, the cart packages, and so on. And we're hoping that the board will approve this because of the inflation value, and probably 10% is not even going to cover the inflation, but we thought we would come up with 10% for your approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
On just that or all of this?
Yeah, the whole packet.
Okay. So for the golf, do you know what is the percentage of the non-residents that use the golf course as opposed to the residents?
I think that is in one of the.
Was it in here?
Yeah, I thought it was.
If I could answer that, what's in your packet is season pass holders.
Okay.
But not
Mm-hmm.
greens,
Mm-hmm.
although that's very easy to get from us kind of sale.
Mm-hmm. I am definitely in favor of the prices going up. I mean, it's unfortunate, but like you said, at a minimum, they probably need to. And the reason I asked that question, of course, is because I really think non-residents should be higher. For example, like that first page, the single, just take the top one, the single proposed 2023 is 608, and then the discount amount. And then the proposed amount for the single is 717. I mean, I think that should be like 800. I see in some other things where we're charging about 30% more to non-residents, and maybe it's something that we should think of keeping kind of consistent with all of our parks, because some seem to be only 10% more and some are 30% more, and so it's just a thought. And I didn't know if maybe that if by increasing then the non-residents that would help, that would be able to keep keep it at 10%, a 10% increase for the residents, and then we can make it up in the non-residents. But I don't know what those figures are as far as.
I think the thought there is that the non-residents kind of brought us back to being in the black, because during COVID, the non-residents discovered our golf course.
Great.
And we kind of want to maintain that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's something we can think about.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions or comments about any of the season pass, greens fees, outings, cart packages, private cart storage, or the allowed for 10 annual complimentary passes?
I did have another comment on for just the daily round. I think it was the fee. So those were the same for resident and non-resident. So you had a difference in the season pass. Am I reading that right? There's not a page number on here, but it's the page starts out at the top of the south course on the left and north course on the right, weekday. And then it's for a resident, it's $20, and for a non-resident, it's $20, or it was, and now it's 22 and 22. So do we not charge more for non-resident for regular rounds, but we do for the season pass?
That was tough. There's a price difference.
No, that's correct. There is no resident, non-resident structure in the green fees on
Mhm.
that system.
So I thought that might be something to consider.
And that's the same for the cart packages as well. There is
Yeah.
no resident.
Mhm.
Have the resident and non-resident rates always been same for single play?
I believe so. Yes, I looked today back to 2015, just to see when the last time it was a re-raised rate. And yes, they have been the same since at least 2015, if not further back.
And I know there was somewhere in here where it showed other golf courses and what their fees were. Was that, and I can't remember if they showed non-residents in theirs or if that was just, because we were pretty close. We were actually, I think, higher than anybody by just a little bit, but, you know, Forest Park was in there and, I don't know what page that was on, but just wondering what, you know, other golf courses are doing.
Now, the golf course prepared that comparison. I can check on this, but I think that it's the same. It's just one rate for green fees.
Yeah. But I meant as far as compared to other golf course, there was a comparison to what other golf courses. Oh, okay.
For all different.
Okay.
Wood and
Okay.
prior league.
Hmm.
But I can follow up on that.
Okay. And then under the major event comparison data, there was no fee for alcoholic beverage fee. It's in red, but then it's crossed out.
That golf or you're adding.
I think I'm in the major event comparison. Yeah.
The item on the agenda under there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here's the comparisons.
Right. Yeah, so it wasn't. So they didn't have non-residents in there. It's just, so I mean, I wonder if that's. Thanks. Thanks, Phil. Yeah.
Shannon, on the storage of golf carts and the usage. And I looked at the contract that they have to sign. I don't know, I don't know about this past year, but in years past, there were a couple of guys that they had joint ownership of the golf cart. Would the person, because it says if you have somebody riding in your golf cart, they must pay a rider's fee. If it's dual ownership, can they both be in there at the same time? Or is it just the individual who signs contract to store their
Yeah,
gasoline or battery operated?
the joint owners are not under this agreement anymore. So some of you that've been on the board for a long time know that years ago there were 20 plus carts using this program. There's only 5 this
Oh,
year. So the two that you're talking about are no longer doing it. It's kind of whittling down, which we'd really like to get rid of. So it's going in the right direction. However, some of these people have been doing it for 25 years, so you don't really want to take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Are they grandfathered so someone new
Yeah.
can't do it? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments or recommendations for changes? Any comments from the public? Well, board, what's your pleasure?
I would move we accept the proposed 2023 fees and contracts and policies for the Michigan City golf courses as printed in our packet.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, now we've got the big packet. What's up next is the 2023 contracts and fees, and this includes the discount policy for rentals, the filming on park property location, major event agreement, Memorial Hall rental agreement, or pavilion rental rental agreements for the Oasis Splash Park, private party in terms of also with parking operation dates, park facility use agreement and fees, program license agreement, senior center rental agreements. Also included is the 2024 contracts and fees for the amphitheater, beach wedding permits, Memorial Hall rental agreements and fees, senior center rental fees, Washington Park rental agreement and fees, and 2023 contract templates for construction, design, and engineering and programs, hold harmless agreement template. So that's what's before us. It's a pretty thorough packet. So thanks again for highlighting all the changes. That makes review much easier and quicker. So with that, questions and comments?
I have one question on the Oasis splash pad. It has on, again, I'm not sure there's a page number there, it's about in the middle of the packet. But it has on private parties that we will host private parties beginning June 1st through Friday, September the 2nd, 2022. So I assume that that's just a typo. That it should be June the 1st through Friday, September the 1st of 2023. Just to make it actually official. I just think it was a typo.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Any other questions or comments or proposed changes or recommendations?
It's about as thorough as thorough.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It is.
I'll go back to under the major event comparison data, the alcoholic beverage fee is crossed out. I don't recall it. Isn't that a normal fee that's in?
Under which agreement?
Major event comparison data. It's kind of the first, let's see. Well, not
That might
first.
be the off-season. Something new this year is going to be a seasonal rate and then an off-season rate.
Mhm.
Because an example is that brought to our attention, the group wanted to run it in April, in the amphitheater. But there's no one down there in April, and they got us thinking, should we have a seasonal rate and an off-season rate?
Right.
To help encourage.
They're actually both crossed off for Memorial Day to Labor Day.
We discussed looking at the fees closer for the amphitheater because it's not utilized. It's a very underutilized facility.
Okay.
And it's beautiful.
Mhm.
So when we look at the fees, we look at the actual cost to our department. And then we try to base our fees on making them reasonable so our citizens can actually use them.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure where the alcoholic beverage fee came from,
Mm.
but the majority, if not all events every year sell alcohol. That's how they make their money. That's how these festivals and fundraisers.
Sure.
And the staff's opinion, like I said, we thoroughly review this stuff every year, is there's no cost to us to do that. And we want the events to be successful so we can have more of them.
Okay.
So we decided we didn't think that alcoholic beverage was even relevant.
Okay. Then is there that fee for other places in the park?
No,
No, so it's totally gone.
it's the only place that we charge that particular fee.
Which,
And you know what, if the amphitheater was rented out 20 times every great weekend in the summer, I would say yes, that we should look at capitalizing on that and getting some more revenues. But because it's not, our mindset is how do we promote the facility better? How do we get people to utilize it? And
Yeah.
that's our mission, is to provide these facilities.
Yeah. Okay. I had seen it before in some of our other proposals, and I thought that maybe that we had to have higher insurance for those events or something, then that helped cover
Yeah.
it because of
So,
alcohol or.
See it in the contract. So this, you're gonna, when you approve these contracts, you're approving the template.
Mhm.
And then each major event that signs a contract to use the amphitheater will come back to you.
Yeah.
And that's where you're seeing the pieces.
Yes. Right.
You know, the food truck festival or.
Right.
The other one, Beyond the Beach.
Mhm.
They were all charged at 500.
Yeah.
But we're asking now is that won't be part of their. fee
Okay.
structures.
Wow.
Which is a big break.
Mhm.
for them,
Yeah,
and hoping
That's
they'll draw
huge.
some
Right.
nuts, because
Okay.
4 is not a good number for, the long summer.
Yeah. Mhm. Cool.
And again, the other change on the major events I'd like to point out is we're charging $125 to use an electric panel for a day, which is way inflated over our actual costs. So again, we put it down to what is the actual it would cost us for them to use our electric. Again, the lower their fees, the more people will start to utilize.
Right.
Hopefully.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't even know if this is the place, but parking operations, Shannon, I know you had addressed
Yeah.
that before. And I understand why there was decline for this year. We had to close earlier, or not, we weren't collecting towards the end. Have we thought about different groups in Michigan City? And I think of one, for example, the Exchange Club. To have them, if they would care, to have their workers volunteer to come in, pay them the hourly rate, and then they could give it to the club. I can't speak for the other clubs. I can only speak for the Exchange Club.
So because it's a financial operation, that just won't work.
Okay.
They have to be city employees. They have to go through our internal control training and certification program. I will tell you that since last March, we have been looking into automated parking systems. There's several kinds. We've met with several cities already that are using them, sales people. Michael Vincent from the Board of Works volunteered to sit on the steering committee. So we are doing our due diligence of what can we do to extend the revenue collection of this operation when we have no school kids. And an interesting fact is the state of Michigan passed a law that their school kids cannot go back to school or be in session between Memorial Day or Labor
Yeah.
Day because it's killing
Yeah.
their tourism industry. So that's interesting. New Buffalo is very close for
Right.
recruiting. But our hands are kind of tied right now, so we're looking at other options.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have just an estimate of how much money we lost once everyone went back to school?
Compared to last year for the same days, 147,000.
Wow. So that's,
Significant.
That is significant.
Yeah. right. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say that with the beach wedding permits, resident 100, non-resident 175, Krieger Memorial Hall rental, resident, what is it here, proposed 175, non-resident 225. Again, just pointing out that we have a lot of other venues where we charge more for the non-resident. So I know we just passed the golf one, but maybe we can consider that for the next year. Just something to think about. Maybe we can look and see what other places are doing and also see where we're at financially, because that 10%, I don't know if that's going to cover all the expenses. So senior center rental, I mean, all of these go on and on. They're all consistent. So. And the picnic shelters. So. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Sure.
Shannon, Sunset Grill administrative costs, what's the 25%
Oh,
increase?
I had that too.
Sorry.
Sunset Grill, we typically haven't had a administrative fee, and now there's a 25% proposed fee.
So Sunset Grill right now is handling all of our reservations of the facility. Kind of gone back and forth with this facility. We even stopped running it for 2 years because it was just a nightmare to try to coordinate and it wasn't working out. So now Sunset Grill is really doing everything. One-stop shopping. They're paying us back for the rental fees that this board establishes. And they have requested that they get 25% of that rental fee for handling, the customer, the reservation. I think that's fair. And I don't want to go back to the way that, the park department was handling the rental of the space, and then the restaurant was handling the food, beverage setup. The customer was just like back and forth. And I know a few people that actually walked away and said, your stuff's way too confusing. So I think that's fair to pay them to handle our side of it and to streamline the rental process for the customer.
And there were only 3 rentals last year.
Yes, so there were 3 rentals, and very quickly, we also offer reservations on the upper deck at the restaurant. So the restaurant can have a reservation for 20 people. They give us $50. We give them free parking.
Mhm.
Up to 40 people, they give us $100 and they get free parking. So there was 3 facility rentals and then there were 3 reservations.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But yes, there would
Okay.
only be 3 that they would be paying the 25.
So it's not like they're making an extraordinary amount of money on doing this. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
All right. There's one other issue that I'll bring up in this packet that's similar to what we talked about with the volleyball. And that has to do with the Memorial Hall rental agreement and the senior center rental agreement. Clauses have been added that you need to have a professional alcohol provider, meaning someone that's licensed with insurance in order to serve at those facilities. And on top of that, then there's insurance you have to have, or the provider who's serving alcohol has to have insurance. The concern of mine in this is that if you're having a smaller event, a baby shower or anything, you can't serve alcohol unless you hire a caterer to come in and serve the alcohol. So that's going to increase the cost. So it's going to, in my opinion, limit the marketability of these facilities for those type of events. It's a complicated issue. Again, it's the risk reward and who's going to pay for that risk and who's accepting it. And, the city does have some umbrella insurance that kicks in here, but I understand this is a hot topic and a lot of people have put their suggestions into these 2 clauses for the Memorial Hall and Senior Center. So I don't want to just negate it and go against it here. I'm going to recommend we table number 4 and number 11 so that we can just have a substantive agreement, a substantive discussion on these items. And I don't think there's immediate need. We can bring them back next meeting. And partially this is my fault because I got it in, I didn't really address this issue until today. So I hate to do something rash. On the other hand, I think what's being proposed is putting too much of a burden on the renter of these 2 facilities and too much of a burden of cost, and it'll make them unmarketable in my opinion. Any questions or comments from the public? So unless there are changes other than the script error we found, unless there anyone making a proposal, you could do it in your motion, but I would recommend that a motion include tabling number 4 and number 11 out of this packet till our next meeting.
And we okay to as it is, except for 4 and 11, that's okay.
Yes. So you're looking for a motion?
Yeah, unless there are any more discussion or any changes, for a motion.
I would move we accept, excuse me, the proposals that are here for 2023 contracts and fees. And minus item 4, Memorial Hall rental agreement, and number 11, Senior Center rental agreement, and table those 2 until our next meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next up is the Park Department 2022 third quarter report.
This is just our standard quarterly reports that was included in your packet. And we'll have to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Nice packet here, Shannon.
Yep.
Once again, that's very well done,
Mhm.
very complete.
I do have one recommendation for future reports. When reading this report, I just thirst for more. And that's really, we have quarter to date, third quarter, but how about year to date? So we get some sort of feel, instead of just a snapshot of Q3, it'd be nice to have year to date so we can kind of see where we are. no need to change what's been presented to us, but moving forward, that would be a nice feature. Any other questions or comments?
I guess I agree with that because I was looking at the softball, P&L and obviously there's a loss there. So is that just third quarter? Or is that a typical for the season? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just third quarter.
That's just third quarter results.
And whether that's indicative of the whole season,
Yeah.
you're kind of left guessing.
Yeah. Okay.
Same for golf, same for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Just
youth
that.
baseball included. Not just softball, correct? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Golf and I had a question on the zoo attendance. July, August, September, and the total that has gone down since 2021. Do we know why?
I think that try to answer that.
Yeah.
The field trips by classrooms and classes in schools have gone down because of the CAD exhibit. They're pretty much waiting for that to be complete.
Okay.
Possibly to the general public as well.
Okay. And you think that's pretty much the main reason for that?
After speaking with Jamie, the director.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And she gave us a talk yesterday.
Okay. It just concerned me because we talked about raising those rates. And I know we haven't finished that. I haven't followed up on that last email. I just haven't had time, but because I had a few more questions with that, but and just wondering if that could be a factor or will it be a factor if we do increase, but I certainly understand it. It's mostly probably from the big cat, but yeah. Okay.
If I might, one of the increases that I think is essential for the zoo is the cost to feed the animals.
Mhm,
It's gone up quite a bit.
mhm.
And Jamie gave some other reasons for the increase. The animal care is the big,
Mhm.
and the fact that the construction and the big cat construction,
Sure.
the zoo wasn't as accessible as it was. And she looks for a big increase next year
Yeah.
because of this
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
big cat.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have one question, and Heather Shannon can answer this. I was looking at construction that's going on and it's shaping up. But if I remember, when we originally had signed all of this, the proposal was that it would be done by the end of the year. And I would just like to know, just an estimate, because I think we have some cost overruns, and I think there have been times where weather has been detrimental to construction, but how are we as far as being on time, or is it projected now in the next year? Any estimated idea?
Well, as I recall, we couldn't quite possibly give a definitive answer on when it would be complete because of holdups on material.
Right,
Right
yeah.
now,
I understand.
there's a holdup on the material that covers the ceiling, the netting. I could say that there was planned to be a soft opening on December 3rd. That is going to be delayed as well. So I could say that it probably will be, after the first of the year, I would say. I can't really say for sure because I don't know when the materials are. But yes.
I appreciate that. And the reason I asked that is people have asked me, when is this going to be done? And I can say that there are difficulties, and things that happen in construction. And for anyone who is watching tonight, if they're curious, and they think, well, this is going to be done at the end of November or something, that's obviously not going to.
Right. It depends on the material.
Yes.
The supply.
Thank you. I
chain.
appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments on the third quarter report?
No, then are we gonna vote on this? May I ask a question first?
Certainly.
Shannon, when we're going to vote on this third quarter report, it's accessible to the public, is that if they got on our website?
Once it's approved, it's posted on the website.
Okay, thank you. So if you want a motion, I'll make a motion. I would move that we accept the third quarter report for 2022.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Right, next up is resolution number 986,
Well, we only got one.
just one. Whereas the superintendent of the Department of Parks and Recreation has recorded that certain transfer funds are necessary within the budget of the Michigan City Department of Parks and Recreation because of unanticipated expenses from various accounts which do not have sufficient funds available for disbursement for said expenses, and whereas there are funds available for said expenses in various other accounts which are not expected to be paid from said accounts during the remainder of the budget year, whereas the Michigan City Parks and Recreation Board has determined that said expenses are necessary and that account transfers should be made in order to meet said expenses. Now therefore be resolved that the following transfer will be made from the following named accounts to the following named accounts for the purposes stated here, and decrease fund 2056-505 maintenance fund seasonal salaries 15,000, increase fund 2056-505 maintenance fund contractual 15,000. Unless there are questions or comments, have a motion to approve resolution number 986.
I so move that we approve resolution number 986.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Any other business that we didn't attend to tonight?
No.
Very good. We'll move on to superintendent's report. Mr. Shin.
Thank you, Mr. Latchford.
You're welcome.
This evening, I would like to report on golf, park maintenance, parks renovation, senior center. That would be it. I spoke with Jamie Huss at the Exchange Club the other day, and I would like to kind of repeat what I spoke to the Exchange Club at my report tonight, because I think what it's time to do is acknowledge the backbones of the park department and what makes the park department so spectacular. In golf, I will also report that the North Course is closed for the year as of yesterday. Both courses combined, North Course and South Course, they've had in 2021, 26,040 golfers, and in 2022, 24,310 golfers. And the difference is because a few less in 2022 as the weather in the beginning of the season was poor. Otherwise, it would have been matched, I'm sure. I want to give acknowledgement to John Marshall and his expertise with the turf, the work he does on the turf out there, assisted by Paul McDonald. They continue to keep the grounds in great condition. And the master mechanic, all the mechanic work done by Michael Moore. Mr. Moore and Paul McDonald maintain not only 85 golf carts, greens mowers, tractors, fairway mowers. They also repair several pieces of equipment used by the park maintenance and the zoo. Park maintenance, I would like to report also that a great job well done by Pat Volz, Sandy Kalinowski, and Chris Kaufman and the whole team of the work they do. They've been working on the Christmas lights for a month now. They'll barely make it on time due to bad weather and the inability to borrow the bucket truck at times when the street department needs it. That makes things a little bit difficult. They work on leaves this time of year, and they're also going to finish the winterizing of the water service lines to the bathrooms and things like that. So they're very busy and doing a great job too. And we must not forget Shannon Easton's work on park renovations. Shannon has gone through the process of managing the renovation of the Water Tower Park, as we know. She has procured funding and grants for the total amount to rebuild and redesign the Water Tower Park, also with the old bandstand doing the same, being renovated soon in the beginning of next year. Mrs. Easton proposed funding, and it was accepted that ARPA would pay for the all-inclusive park engineering for Fetters Alley. So she's doing a great job keeping the park department afloat, that's for sure. The senior center, we have Director Tara Miller doing a great job at that facility with her activities that are very well planned and organized. She's working closely with the architect with the renovation that will take place soon for the entire floor replacement and the moving of the admin offices opposite side of the building. The current location of the offices are blocking the $1 million view of the Lake Michigan and the shoreline. So that will be quite an improvement. I really want to state also that the janitorial staff that the park department has, does a very good job. It's that staff is led by Cindy Jacobs, and her crew are never noticed and gets very little recognition, but they clean up after all the rentals and the weddings. And Cindy and Amanda and Eva and Darren do all that type of work, and get the park department to keep moving along. Without them, it would be impossible to operate with rentals and the restrooms. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. Any questions or comments for the superintendent?
Any vandalism?
Yes, sir. Thank you. There was no vandalism until Mr. Volz discovered this afternoon that a doorknob has been ajarred or damaged at the splash pad, but no entry was made and the alarm did not go off. Thank you. Fixed tomorrow.
And forgive me if I didn't hear you clearly. The senior center report, you'd mentioned the flooring and the moving the office. We haven't engaged anyone to do that yet, correct?
It's the next meeting, we would probably be asking you to approve the voting process.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for the superintendent? All right, we'll move on to the liaison reports. I'm the planning commission liaison, and there has not been a meeting since our last meeting. Port Authority, Mr. Freeze.
Nothing this week. Next Monday they have a meeting.
And Zoological Society, Mr. Lang.
The Zoological Society will not meet until next Tuesday, so I will have a report at the next meeting.
Thank you. An attorney's report tonight?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Any director's reports?
No, sir.
Department Finances, back to Mr. Lang.
Michigan City Park Department claims docket for November the 2nd, 2022. Municipal, $73,645.23. Golf, nothing at this time. Zoo endowment, nothing at this time. Total claims for November the 2nd, 2022, $73,645.23. I still move that we approve the claims docket for November the 2nd.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Payroll number 21 with a pay date of October the 21st. Total payroll, $76,271.40. I so move that we approve payroll number 21.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Under gifts and donations, a zoo donation, the Roundup program, $4.23. Life Strategies LLC zoo donation, Boo at the Zoo, $200. Prendergast Agency zoo donation, Boo at the Zoo, $50. LaPorte County Visitors Bureau donation, 2022 MOU-NSA/BPA, $10,000. Coin Racer zoo donation, $16.84. I so move that we approve and accept these gifts and donations.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Minor transfers, none at this time. Zoo endowment, none at this time. Board of Works, none at this time. Credit card charges totaling $2,051.94 were paid to corporate payment systems for the following: 1000bulbs.com, maintenance Christmas lights, $260.96. All American Christmas, maintenance Christmas lights, $1,575.50. SafetySign.com, senior center handicap parking signage, $149.12. FedEx, maintenance ship Christmas lights back, $66.36. I so move that we approve the credit card charges totaling $2,051.94.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that ends the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
You are welcome.
That brings us to comments from the public. Any comments tonight? Good evening, welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Ducey, 205 Warren Road, or better stop 2. I haven't heard, again, I understand there's no back and forth with the board. I get that. I'm just gonna make my statement. Didn't hear any updates on signs. Wouldn't mind to see a mock-up on the webpage, and just some presentation on where we are on the signs. Like to follow that up. on the importance of that because I had a discussion with an Officer King at the Michigan City Police Department. Mr. King is an interesting appointment there. He's not only the public liaison officer, he's also the head of training. That's important for us because the Michigan City Police Department does not enforce city ordinances on the beach. That comes from a ruling during the COVID time in which the beaches were attempted to be closed. A judge ruled that that was not legal, and the city attorney, our city attorney, by the way, the judge and the city attorney both have the same last name. That was brought to the police department, which basically said no city ordinances can be enforced on our beaches. I wanted to let you know, and I did let the councilman know, that we've been running ATVs in the police department on the city beaches as well as on Colfax on overtime hours. Think about that for a second. We need to get with the city attorney, would be one thing to make sure this is correct. But it makes it all the more important that we have proper signage because the only thing we have going for us is Shane. I brought this up a month ago. You only have Shane. That's the only thing you've got. So you've got to have proper signages. Secondly, I'd like to support Superintendent Shin's call for an independent resource patrol. That looks a lot better right now because at least we could maybe intercept these folks with dogs and so forth and so on prior to going on the beach at places like Colfax and perhaps the parking lot and other places where the Michigan City Police Department is not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ducey. Any other public comments?
Ross Ballin, 206 Lindenwood Drive, Michigan City.
Good evening, welcome.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for putting in the agreement to move on for 2023. I remember the day we started in 1999 with Shannon and a few other staff with a large tournament, and we have changed in terms of our ages, but we're still providing excellent programs. What I want to talk about a little bit, besides the beach volleyball program, is when the city didn't approve the recreation expansion. I do think Shannon and the team have talked about possibility of expanding our volleyball operations to satellite locations throughout the park. If everybody wants to Google me, we operate academies at 30 parks across the Midwest. And at each one of these parks, we are operating in grass, sand, and indoor. So I do think Michigan City to come up with, more recreation for that vulnerable age of basically 8 years old to 14, we need to get on this as soon as possible. Because if we don't have the recreation programs, they're either leaving our city for those programs, or we're losing them to different high schools. And we have 2 inner city schools. We have Marquette and Michigan City. Both are declared as inner city schools. And that's a great way to keep kids in our cities by having a satellite program. That doesn't mean it has to be just volleyball. We have some other athletes and students that would love to work for me, and I'll get my workman's comp insurance if we expand. But that's about it. I just wanted to thank Ed and his team and Shannon. They kept the beach in great condition. And I'll leave one last thing about Stop 2. I highly recommend putting together at least 10 sand courts at Stop 2 to alleviate the consumption of alcohol and maybe allow my 18-year-old son to go there at one point. But for myself and other parents to not allow their kids to go to Stop 2 because of overconsumption is something I would love to change. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Bowling. Any other public comment tonight?
Ross, I want to say, I think you do a very good job out there with EVP. Thank you.
Any board comment tonight?
I'd just like to say, congratulations to all the superintendents and those in charge of different departments turning in their plans and statistics for 2022. An excellent report, and keep up the good work. And the golf course, as a side note, I have a lot of friends who are golfers, and I can't remember a year when there wasn't any complaints except this year. A lot of compliments. So congratulations.
Thank you, Phil. Any other board comment? Seeing none, our next meeting is November 16th, Wednesday, 5 p.m. right here. The motion to adjourn.
So move.